And then I'm going to make sure to put a period at the end and quotation marks. And very, very carefully, I'm going to check it against my text to make sure it's correct. And then, of course, I need to put the notebook, her facing her fear, what's starting to change for her. So I'm going to say that facing her fear. And I'm just going to write essential. Okay, in order for her to be successful, she had to face her fear. Okay, we're going to go to the back part of the template. And of course, we're going to be looking for the end where we have our quote that supports that she was a success. And right here we find that we have the quote of Dad that says, "We're proud of you. We're sure proud of you." And we're going to write that in here. And we're going to be very careful again. If we forget or we don't know how to spell the words, we're going to look back. And that's going to be our quote. And then, of course, the light bulb is coming on. So everything's changing. Everything's changing inside her and with others. So we're going to focus on the change that occurred for Michelle. So Michelle, of course, when she completed the task and she was successful, she grinned and she bowed. So we're coming near to the end. And of course, at the end, we need to restate the question that was asked of us. And the question was this: what is the lesson the author feels the reader should learn in the story on stage? So we're going to restate that answer, and this time we could put in a positive restating who Michelle was. So we could start off with Michelle, and who is she? She's a violinist. So I'm going to write in a positive here because it just clarifies for the reader a little bit more about Michelle. Michelle, the violinist, found that through accepting her fear, persisting in practice, and using unusual strategies, she was able to conquer her fear, or to face her fear head on. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and read that. And as you notice, we used a list here. So we used an explicit, and we also used some very interesting things to make our sentence more exciting. Michelle, the violinist, the appositive, found that through accepting her fear, persisting in practice, and using unusual strategies, she was able to face her fear head on. And here I could say using an unusual strategy, because she just used one, and I might want to go up here and say finally Michelle uses an unusual strategy. Just make sure that this matches that. This is one strategy and this is one strategy. So I'm going to go back and just make sure it's a GY. So let me read that one more time. Michelle, the violinist, found that through accepting her fear, persisting in practice, and using an unusual strategy, she was able to face her fear head on. Perfect. Now what we're going to do is the next thing, of course, will be our elbow buddies. So we are going to read through this with our elbow buddy. And remember that when we get to these sections, if it just has a few words, we have to turn it into a complete thought. In the first paragraph and the last paragraph, all we're going to need is items in a series. We're not going to need any more description than that. In fact, I can go back here, and now that I have written that down here, all I need to do is list the character qualities at the beginning. So I'm going to pretend that I am reading it to you, and you are my elbow buddy, and this is how it would go. In the story on stage, the author feels the reader should learn to face their fears head on. Michelle is fearful, then persistent, and finally successful. She learns that fear can be conquered. First of all, Michelle began the story by playing music for her stuffed animals as they were as if they were an audience. And here, I seem to have forgotten to put an ED, so you just simply put it on and remind yourself. She was very fearful at the beginning, and her stomach felt like it was flipping or it had butterflies. "You're lucky you don't have to play by yourself in front of everyone," she said to her animals. The animals simply smiled as if they were alive on her bed. Michelle, as the story continues, voices her fears to her parents. And again, I have left off an R, so I'm going to put that on there. As she practiced with her animals, her persistence paid off. She became comfortable and felt like she could make it. "You'll do just fine," said Mom. "The first time is always the hardest." Michelle knew when she stood in front of the audience, she must face her fear if she was going to be successful. Finally, Michelle used an unusual strategy to accomplish her success. The success came when she closed her eyes, and the animals, or the people, appeared to be animals. Then when she opened her eyes, they moved back into people. "We're really proud of you," said Dad, as she finished and took a bow. Michelle grinned. It was over and she had been successful. Michelle faced her fear, but was persistent and finally successful in the story on stage. Life is full of fears. We have to conquer them. Michelle, the violinist, found that through accepting her fear, persisting in practice, and using an unusual strategy, she was able to face her fear head on. Now, the next thing that you'll do is, like I said, elbow buddies. You're going to share just like I did. And as you notice, sometimes our sentences don't come to us the first time, and we have to go back, think about them, and say them again. That's perfect. That's part of how we learn. So if you get stuck, your elbow buddy can help you, or you can stop and make a sentence and then start again. When you're done, I want you to come back to your desk and we'll start writing. All right, this is the very last part, the most exciting part. This is where you show your teacher how absolutely successful you are. We're going to take the notes that we have and we're going to place them underneath. Again, we're going to make sure that the side is straight, that we've done quickly our writing alert. We remind ourselves to indent, strong capital, write, punctuate, and eliminate. We're going to go through the template completely, carefully, and be a success the first time. The most important thing is that we take our time, but we can do this rapidly because we have all the pieces we need to be a success. So we're going to look at the first topic sentence, make sure to indent, and we're going to begin.